Hi guys, it's Paula here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing another reading vlog. This one specifically I'm very excited about. I'm gonna be reading some of my most anticipated books that are being released this year. So we're currently in March and already I think there's been like 5 or 6 books that have just been released that I've been meaning to read. So I'm very excited about them and I thought, why not make a video? Today is Monday and I already know which book I'm gonna start with, and that is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. This might be my most anticipated book being released this year. I read 7 Days in June by Tia Williams 2 years ago. I think it was in 2022 when I read it, and it became my favorite book of the year, I think, or if it was not my favorite, it was my favorite romance of that year. I loved it so much, I gave it 5 stars. And then I found out that Tia Williams was writing another book, which is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I am so excited to read this book. Also, I have no idea what this book is about. As far as I know, this is a love story between a florist and a pianist. The blurb also says that this is a love story 100 years in the making. So I don't know if it's gonna be just kind of more of a maybe historical, or if it's just gonna be like magical realism, which I hope it is, because magical realism is one of my favorite things in books. But I don't know, we'll see. I don't know if it's just a normal romance or not. What I do know is that it also has like this little quote from Emily Henry, which says that it's warm and magical. So maybe it is a magical realism book. I don't know, we'll see. I'm very excited to read this. So let's start reading it. I've reached just page 34. I think it's, chapter 3. And I don't want to say much because I obviously don't want to spoil it, but there's like it's kind of like a dual timeline. So I'm confused, but I think this is leading to a more of a magical realism storyline, which I am thrilled. I love magical realism. It's just not something that I was completely expecting out of this. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. Hopefully I can get through most of it today.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of water under the bridge.
Some of the old songs.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Well, it's good morning for me. Today is Wednesday, and yesterday I finished A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. It was so good. It was so good. I loved it so much. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this right now. I feel like I need, well, I finished it yesterday, but I feel like I need more time. I really liked the couple in this book. I thought they were so cute. I also like the friendships that Ricky Wilde finds during this story, from like this like childhood TV star to this old lady that is just so sweet. I love this book so much. Honestly, I was not expecting a lot of things in it. I thought it was just gonna be like a contemporary romance. It was not. I mean, it is, but also it's like there's like a little bit of magical realism going into it, so I love that so much. It made the whole experience so magical. So yeah, I really like this. I do think I have to think a little bit of my rating, but since I finished this, I can start with a new book. I have a list of books that I really want to read this year, and some of them have already come out, but I found out like yesterday, 2 days ago, I found out that there was a new Gabriel Garcia Marquez book coming out, which was wild. But apparently this is the last novel that he wrote before passing, and he never wanted it published, but his son decided that he wanted to publish it because he thought that it was a great novel, and that honestly his father didn't think it was good just because of, you know, her illness at the end of his life. And I thought, let me give it a try because it sounds very good. And it came out literally two days ago. I think it came out on Monday. So I'm gonna do that. I don't have the time or the energy to go to a bookstore and find it. So I'm gonna read it on my Kindle. I think I'm gonna get it there. And then see how I like it. So far, I don't know much about it. I just know that it's a story about this woman that every year she goes to this island to visit her mom's grave. Yeah, and that's basically it. It is written from a female perspective, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, I literally just got the book on my Kindle. Yeah, I don't think have I mentioned the name? Anyway, the name is En agosto nos vemos. I don't know the title in English. It's probably like See You in the Summer or something like that. See You in August. But yeah, I'm gonna start this. It's later in the day and I finished En agosto nos vemos by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. What do I have to say about it? I think this is the third book of him that I've read. I've read 100 Years of Solitude, which actually I have it here. So yeah, this is my copy of 100 Years of Solitude. I read it in Spanish though, so 100 años de soledad. I also read Crónicas de una muerte anunciada, which honestly I don't know what the name in English is, but if I figure it out, I'll leave it here somewhere. But yeah, so my experiences reading Gabriel Garcia Marquez have been kind of weird. When I first read 100 Years of Solitude, I did not like mostly how he wrote women, how he wrote relationships, and a lot of the intimacy shown in this book was just straight up sexual violence committed by men, but portrayed as if it was supposed to be beautiful or endearing. I don't know, it was not something that I really enjoyed, so that's why I didn't give it such high rating, but I still enjoy the way that he writes. There was this one scene in the book that it made me cry so much, and I loved how it was written. I think I probably have it like tabbed or something, but yeah, I really like this one. And then Crónicas de una muerte anunciada, it was more of a novella than a whole book, so yeah, it was very short, but it was interesting. It has like the writing that I like, and the story was alright for it being such a short book. So I think En agosto nos vemos is kind of similar to Crónicas de una muerte anunciada in the sense of it was very short, so there was not that much story. But what I was very curious about, I think I mentioned it earlier, is that this book is written by a female perspective, which is always interesting when it's written by a man, because, you know, it can be a little iffy, I guess. But this one was alright. I didn't think there was anything too problematic with how he described her. Again, it was a very short book. I think I liked the main plot behind it. about this woman going to this island to visit her mom's grave every year. I don't have many thoughts on it. I think I just mostly had an issue with the things that were happening in the story, what the main story was about. Yes, I said that I liked it, but I feel like I cannot say much because it would be a spoiler, but it's just the circumstances in which this woman was meeting men and this like relationships forming. The circumstance of that I did not like, but I like seeing how she was approaching this, how she was kind of like thinking about what she was doing, and how these like encounters were affecting her life every year. Something that I loved that Gabriel Garcia Marquez put in there was like the ending and what we discover about this woman's mother. I think it was just beautiful, the fact that, you know, we are our mother's daughters, and that means something, and that sometimes means that we commit the same mistakes as them, or that we go out of our ways to not commit the same mistakes as them. But it's just, yeah, I think I really like that part of the book when it was mostly about how this main character related and was so similar to her mother. So that was very pretty. I like that. But yeah, now that I finished that book, which again, it was more of a novella, it was like 130 pages or so. It was very short. I read it this morning. Now I'm gonna start a different book, and when I say different, it is very different. I'm gonna start An Education in Malice. So this book specifically, I did get it on Kindle because for some reason it is not available in paperback in Spanish bookstores, which is wild because like in the Netherlands, which is, you know, Europe, they are available in paperback, so I don't know why they're not in Spain, but that's fine. I got the Kindle and I'm very excited. This read is very different to Gabriel Garcia Marquez. An Education in Malice is written by S.T. Gibson, and if you have not heard her name, wild, because she wrote A Dowry of Blood, which is very famous here on BookTube and BookTok. It is a very well loved book. I think this book was published independently at the beginning, and it had a beautiful cover, and then once it was picked up to publish traditionally, they changed the cover. I'm one of those people that don't like the new cover, but now the old covers are selling for like hundreds of dollars. I'm not paying that for a book, which is a shame because I really like that cover. Anyway, I have not read that book, but I was very excited to hear about this book coming. It is supposedly kind of like a Carmilla inspired book. I think it's not a retelling, but it does include like the character of Carmilla, which is like the main character of the book, Carmilla, which is kind of like a vampire classic. I have not read that one yet, but I will. What I know about that other book is it's considered like a lesbian cult book. Like people really love it, and it's kind of like very queer. I don't think that was the intention, but that's what people say. So that's interesting. Anyway, this inspired Carmilla story, it's also queer, but this one is actually, they tell you it's actually queer. It's not just like, oh, I'm getting queer vibes. No, she's a lesbian. Well, she's not a lesbian. She's queer. Anyway, yeah, there is a sapphic relationship here. That's what we know. But that's basically everything that I know. I just know that there are two girls in some kind of college, and they're like very interested in this professor, and it's sapphic and vampires. That's it. That's everything I know, but hopefully it is interesting. So yeah, I'm gonna start reading that one. I'm sorry, this I knew that this was an adult book, but what do you mean? Public sex? What? Okay, sure, let's go.
It's been a long time. Yes, ma'am. A lot of water under the bridge.
Okay, so it's late in the day. It's been like a couple hours, I'd say. I've reached the 25% mark in An Education in Malice. It's very interesting right now. I feel like the writing, it's a little bit dry Right now I'm not enjoying it as much, but the plot is going somewhere interesting. We've like reached a little bit of like a more of a romance section, like things are happening in the romantic subplot with Carmilla and Laura. I'm pretty sure it's not pronounced like that, it's probably like Laura or something, right? In Spanish it's Laura. I'm gonna call her Laura. Carmilla and Laura. That is closer to my heart. So basically things are like evolving a little bit between them. Laura has finally discovered De La Fontaine's secret, so they're kind of like all moving together plot-wise. I do have to say though, I don't like La Fontaine. She just feels so manipulative and predatory to me. No, it's not a pun because she's a vampire. It's really not. She just feels like very predatory towards her student Carmilla. It feels very weird, very manipulative. I don't like her, and every time she's like randomly jealous. Girl, why? I don't know. It was just, I don't like her. I feel like that's fair to say. And another thing I have to say about this book right now is that for some reason, and I don't know what is making it feel like this, if it's like maybe like Laura's innocence when we are in her POV, or if it's how it's written, but I keep imagining these two girls like high schoolers, and they're not high schoolers, they're like a freshman and a senior in college, which a freshman is still kind of like teenager-ish, like 17, 18, but still, I don't know what it is, but I just keep thinking they're literal like teenagers, they're like in high school rather than university. So whenever they're talking about something that's more like adult, I'm like, you're children. But they're not. So maybe it's just how it's written, or maybe not. That's just the vibe that I'm getting, so it's very confusing at times. I'm excited to keep reading. I kind of want to know where the book is going, because as for now I have no idea. Okay, so I just finished an education in Malice. It's the morning of the next day. I'm still in my pajamas. Overall, I think I liked it. It was entertaining enough. At least for the first 50%, I had no idea what the story was even about. Like, what was the plot? I was very confused. And also, I hated, oh my god, I hated the professor. I hated her so much. She was so annoying. She was so manipulative. I just did not understand why these girls were so obsessed with her. That was very infuriating. So yeah, I finished it. That is the third book that I read this week. And now we're on Thursday. So I think later today I will pick another book. I think I have time for one more, because I do have a busy day tomorrow and I won't be able to read anything. So yeah, we'll see. Okay, so it's later in the day. I did finish an education in Malice this morning, so it's time to pick another book. I noticed that the last two books that I read were on my Kindle, which is great. I love my Kindle, but one of my goals this year is to read all of my physical TBR, and I realized that I do have one book that came out in January that I still have not read, and because it was from a subscription box, I already have it, and that is The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. Yes. This is so pretty, and that is, I don't know if you can see, but there's a skeleton there. It's supposed to be like a horror witchy story that involves these three girls. So yeah, I think from what I've read, basically one of these is a witch. Then there's another one that screwed up one like curse thing, so now she is like rotting or something like that. And then there's one whose sister, I think, died, and she's trying to bring her back. So yeah, you know, cute little witchy story. Doubt it will be cute though. I think it's gonna be more of a horror mystery type of book. I think I'm gonna be reading this book next. Oh, look. It matches my shirt. Love that. I have to say, I don't like reading these books with the dust jacket, so I will take it out. I'll put it back later when I'm done, but it just, to read it's just more comfortable. So yeah, and I think this has around like 390 pages, so I think it's a good length for this weekend. Also because this has like a little like gold color in the cover, I have the perfect bookmark to match it with. It is this one. I'm the weird person that likes to match the bookmarks with the book. I do it every time and I think it's so fun. So yeah, I'm gonna be reading these next. Okay, so I got to page 50, right? Yes, to page 50. This color is very pretty. Okay, so far we've met all of the characters, Emmer, Sarah, and Jude, and basically kind of like how their lives are currently and what the issue is with all of them. Well, there's not an issue with Emma per se, but like we learn about Sarah's sister, we also learn about like Jude's curse. So yeah, they have not met each other yet. I'm hoping they'll meet soon, but it's going very well. I do think maybe it's just the beginning of it, but I feel like it's giving a little bit of feminism 101. You know, like there is commentary on here and it's a very obvious commentary. There's no nuance to it, which obviously for me, I am 22, technically I'm an adult. I already know all of these. I've already, you know, have tried to learn more about feminism and gender issues. So I feel like this is very on the nose, that's what the commentary is. But I do believe that if you're younger, if you're like a teenager, this book is a young adult. So if you're a teenager and you have never really thought much or tried to dive more into feminism, I think this is a good introduction to it. Even though it's obviously a story, it's fiction, it's about witches and about curses and death, but it does have a heavy commentary on women's issues. So I think if you are kind of new to that, you will find this book interesting and you will kind of learn a little bit or just like reinforce your ideas of it. So I think that's very cute. That's nice. Once again, it's not working that much for me just because I'm already aware of that commentary. I have put myself to learn more about it, and this is very like beginner type thing, but it's going very well so far.
It's been a long time.
Yes, ma'am. A lot of water under the bridge.
Some of the old songs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's Sunday and I finished my last book this morning very early, so I thought this would be a good moment to show you all of the books that I read this week and tell you more or less what I thought about them. As I said, all of these are anticipated releases that I had for this year, so they are pretty new books. So first I read A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. I know that this book came out somewhere in February, I don't remember exactly the date, but I have been waiting for this book for so long. I loved 7 Days in June when I read it 2 years ago. It was one of my favorite romances, and now this one, I think I might like even better. I feel like the romance and the trauma and like the storyline within the characters, like how each of them were like overcoming their own things in 7 Days of June was great, and I loved that. And I don't think it was as prominent in this book, but this book was, in my opinion, more magical. This is obviously a contemporary romance between a florist and a pianist, and I thought their love story was so beautiful, and it also has elements of magical realism, so it is, as I said, quite magical. I was not expecting it, but I really liked it. There were a couple of weird moments, especially with the piano. If you know, you know. But yeah, it was very magical and very romantic. I love the side characters. I love Tuesday, which is Ricky Wilde's like new best friend in the book, and she's like a former TV star. And also Ricky's relationship with Mrs. Stella it was so beautiful, and I love that each other found that family that they didn't have in real life. Also, her sisters were very interesting. They were horrible. They're mean people, but they were very fun to read about. And when it comes to the romance, I think for some people it might feel a very fast romance, and I would even describe it as insta-lovey a little bit, but because of the circumstance in which these characters found themselves in the book, I feel like it makes so much sense that it goes so fast and so strong right at the beginning already. So I really liked it. I was thinking of giving it a 4.5, 4.75 at the beginning, but then I just kept thinking of how happy this book made me feel, so I feel like I'm gonna give it a 5. That being said, I don't think it would be a 5 for most people, but it was a 5 for me because I just loved the story and I loved how it was written. And I do see some issues with it, like what people might not like entirely about this, but this was the perfect book for me. Now, after a love song for Ricky Wilde, I read En Agosto Nos Vemos, which I have here. Now, this book I read on my Kindle because I couldn't wait to just go up somewhere and buy it. So I got it on my Kindle, but it was my dad's birthday 2 days ago, and he really likes Gabriel Garcia Marquez, so I got this book for him. So this is not my copy, this is my dad's copy, but for this video's purpose, let's just say that it was this that I read. I don't think I have much to say about this book. I was surprised by how Gabriel Garcia Marquez wrote from a female perspective, because I was a bit wary about it, but I found it quite fine. The story itself, it's very simple. It's about this woman that goes every year to visit her mom's grave in an island, not where she lives. So it's like her little getaway every year in summer, specifically August. And then in one of those trips, something happens, and that kind of like carries with her throughout the following year. So the next year it happens again, and it's kind of like, I don't want to give too much away because I feel like it's one of those books that it's better if you just go blind. But yeah, I think that even though obviously her mother does not appear in the book at all, their relationship towards the end, just when you realize kind of what was happening, you find out this specific thing about her mother, it just, I don't know, I thought it was very beautiful how they can be connected even though they're not together anymore. So yeah, I really like that part of the book. The thing is, it was a novella, it was very short, so I think I would just give it a 3.5. It was alright. I don't think I'll read it again though. The cover is beautiful though. Now, after that book, I read An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. This was my first book of her. I know that people rave a lot about A Dowry of Blood, so I kind of had high expectations going into this book. What did I know about this going in? It's somewhat inspired by the Book of Carmilla. It's about vampires, and there's a queer relationship. That was kind of what I knew going into it. It was quite alright. One of my issues with it was the writing was kind of dry, so that was a shame. And also, I think it might have been with how the book was written. For some reason, I just kept thinking of these women as teenagers, like high school age, like they were going to like a boarding school. They were not. It's a college. They are adults. I don't know, that made it weird. I felt like I kept forgetting that they were adults, so some of the things that were happening in the book were like, sorry, what? Carmila and Laura, I thought they were cute together. Their love story, it's kind of like a hate love situation. I did have very strong opinions about the teacher. I hated her. I hated her so much. Oh my god. It was so infuriating to read about this woman. Like every time she appeared in the book, I was like, God, why? Why? And she was in like 90% of the book because she's kind of a main character. But yeah, it really was something else. I don't know. Also, maybe it would be good if you check the trigger warnings. I don't think there's anything too horrible, too graphic, but it does describe kind of like a manipulative relationship. So yeah, it's weird power dynamics happening there. Basically, it's like a professor-student weird relationship. Also, public sex, which I was kind of expecting because it literally tells you right at the beginning, like, oh, watch out for this, and one of those things were that. But then it happened in the book, and I was just like, these are children, and I was like, no, they're not. So it was very weird, and I think those were my main issues with it. The plot was interesting, but I feel like it didn't kick in until like 50% of the book. That's where we knew where things were going, but the first part is just kind of like a very long introduction to Carmila, to Laura, and like De La Fontaine's situation. Yeah, I think I would give it a 3.75. I feel like it's higher than a 3.5, but it doesn't reach the 4 stars. And that's a shame, but I just can't help it. It just feels like a 3.75. And then the last book that I read this week, and it's the one that I finished this morning, it's The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. This book came out in January, I believe. This book was very good. I definitely got the horror, witchy, curse vibes. It was very fun. Weird enough, these characters felt more adult than the ones in An Education in Malice, which I do not comprehend because this is a young adult. Yeah, they felt like college kids for some reason, but I think it was the writing and everything was very appropriate for young adult. The book is about these 3 girls, Emmer, Sarah, and Jude, and they find each other and they discover that someone is like killing women, so they try to find that killer. I thought the plot line was so smart. It was so smart. Like I didn't see it coming until like we were almost there. I was like, wait. I really liked it. I feel like my favorite character was probably Jude. She was a badass. I loved her so much. I think I said this before. This feels very Feminism 101. And I keep saying that for lack of a better way to express myself, because it's kind of like, it has very heavy commentary on gender issues and it's very blatant. It doesn't really have any nuance to it. So I think for a bit like older people, like college and up, these are things that you already know, that when you read you expect a little bit more of nuance in the commentary. But I feel like for young adult, this was brilliant. I wished I had had a book like this when I was growing up to kind of like get myself started a little bit in my feminist era. This is just like a very good like guideline. I feel like especially in Hispanic countries or Latin countries, you grow up with a little bit of misogyny ingrained in you, and it's just good to start like getting rid of that as early as you can. But yeah, I think I would have loved this if I read it when I was a teenager, truly. So I think I'm gonna give it a 4 stars. I feel like I did not love it as much to give it a 5 star, but it was a great read. It really kept me on my toes and I was very interested and I could not put it down. These are all of the physical books that I read in this video. Yeah, I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and if you've read any of these books, please let me know what do you think about them, and if you haven't, well, I hope you add some of them to your TBR. Thank you so much and see you in the next one. Bye!